is Mr. Barber filling in for Mrs. Barber, and we're showing you today how we collect the maple syrup before we get up to the sugar shack. And here we have our first bucket. So it's not dripping that great today, but it is dripping. And here's our maple syrup, or our sap, which looks just like water until we boil it and get all the water out of it. So we're gonna pour this one into the bucket. And if we wanted to make 1 bucket of maple syrup this full, we would have to fill 40 to 50 of these to make a full bucket of maple syrup that you would eat on your pancakes. So there's bucket number 2. This is a big tree, so the reason we're putting 2 buckets on this tree is because it's such a huge tree and it branches off. So a small 12-inch tree, we would only put 1 bucket. So let's go to our next tree and see what we have. And Jack over here is my maple syrup collector helper. And as well, my cameraman also helps me collect maple syrup, the sap. We have a full bucket here again. Put that back on the tree. It's still dripping, so we're gonna have to collect it again tomorrow. But most likely, come dark, it will stop dripping. So let's go to our next tree, which is an even bigger tree. And this tree didn't do so well today. It only just has a bit of sap. They're not really running that well because it's too warm in it. Ideally, when you want for maple sap to run really well, it has to freeze at night, so all the ground freezes. And then during the day, it gets up to at least +5, and then it drips really well. Even though it's 19 degrees right now, or 15 degrees, it didn't freeze last night, so it's not dripping that well. And so we just go like this, tree to tree. And as you can see, we have all kinds of buckets over there to collect. And we have all kinds of buckets down there to collect. So we're gonna have to end this video because we gotta go collect maple syrup.
Hey boys and girls, Miss Barber back here. I'm just gonna add to Mr. Barber's video. He told you so much about maple syrup. But one question I thought you guys would be interested in that I had was, how does the sap drip out of the tree? So what we do is we drill a hole into the tree and we put a spile in the tree, and it's like a tap. And then the sap drips out of that. See the little small drips? And last night this tree dripped a lot. Look, we've got a full bucket there of sap that we're gonna take and make into maple syrup. So this tree, Mr. Barber tapped, we call it tapped, 3 times. So that's how the sap gets from the tree and drips out into the buckets. So pay attention to the next video, which is Mr. Barber talking about how to boil the sap into maple syrup.
Hello boys and girls, Mr. Barber's back again, and we're going to show you, I've showed you how to collect the buckets of sap, and now I'm going to show you what we do when we get the sap up to our sugar shack. So we pump all the sap with this big pump here. We put these hoses on and we fill this tank right to the top with sap. And then what we do is we have another pump right here that this pump pumps it up and into this tank. And inside of this tank, underneath, we have a fire going to warm the sap up a little bit so it's not so cold. And the reason we warm it up is the fire we have going inside. If this sap's really cold going onto a hot evaporator, then it won't evaporate off quite as quickly. So you have to kind of keep the sap warm. And the way we know when we need more sap is there's a float in there. So when the sap gets down to about here, a pump kicks on and fills the sap back up to here. So then we have a line here that goes inside into our sugar shack. And I'll show you where that line goes if you follow me.
So boys and girls, this is the sugar shack. It says no girls allowed, but I'm a girl and I'm allowed. And there's Cole's sugar shack sign. So we'll come in here.
So the sap from outside comes in this line right here, and here is what they call a float. And when this needs more sap, it adds a little bit of sap into here and then into here. And as you can see here, our syrup is getting fairly close to being ready, but up there it isn't. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a little bit of this sap out of here, and we're going to put it over there. I'll show you what we do. So we watch this gauge and make sure it's somewhere close to 7, and then we'll stop when it starts to drop. Okay, that's probably about enough for now. Then we'll take our maple syrup over here, and we're going to pour it into this one. And we're going to just keep this slowly boiling all day, and then we're going to test it at the end with a hydrometer, which looks like a thermometer. And once we know there's enough water taken out of it and it's maple syrup, then we filter it and then we put it in bottles. And that's how we make maple syrup.
So boys and girls, I just want you to look at the difference in color. Look how golden brown this is.
I'll move out of your right here.
And look at in this one. It looks like water still. See in there? It's kind of hard to see through the steam. And then it gets a little bit darker here. And then here, it's a golden brown. Now, Mr. Barber is going to show you how he keeps the boil going. So he opens this up.
And here's our fire. And every once in a while, you just have to add a few more logs. And we'll close the door for probably about another 7 or 8 minutes. And then we add some more water.
And there you go, boys and girls. That's how you make maple syrup. Have a great day, boys and girls. I'm glad you were with me to learn, I'm glad you were with me on another adventure. And tell your mom and dad to go to the store and buy natural maple syrup.